Hey guys, my name is Loveless, and this time we're here with the Mollitudo, chapter 12. We are past more than halfway through this thing. There's like 6 more chapters, 7 more, something like that. Alright, so let's get straight into it. The teachers looked at Tsukachi, who was writing in his notebook. We shouldn't have pushed him so hard, Katsuki heard All Might say. He wanted to shout at them, but his focus was on Deku, who was staring blankly at nothing, hands limp on Katsuki's lap, tears still streaming. Some part of him felt angry. Angry at himself. Angry at that asshole. Another part of him wanted to gather Deku close into his arms, hold him forever, and to protect him, which he knew was stupid. He heard how Deku said Vex threatened to take him in front of Deku. He knew that may have been due to him. He wondered if Deku knew. Katsuki wanted to ask, but he knew now wasn't the time. Deku was strong. That much he knew. That is how he managed to save himself and call him. For what he understood, he tackled the bastard down with an injured knee, for God's sake. He endured cuts, the torture, now the pain of retelling them everything. His arms tightened as Aizawa stood up, walking towards them. Midoriya, he said, kneeling in front of Deku, a hand on the sofa edge. Tell me what you're feeling right now, he said steadily. Deku mumbled after a pause. Vex, please stop. Is he in a flashback? Katsuki snapped worriedly. He sent Aizawa the most lost look. Aizawa took a deep breath. He then scooted closer, continuing. Midoriya, tell me what you're feeling right now. What can you smell? Deku was looking like he was fighting himself, but after a while, he shifted his head slightly, hair tickling Katsuki's chin. Kachan? Todoroki, give me some ice. Aizawa said, hand reaching out. Todoroki immediately placed one into his hand. He gently pressed it into Deku's hand. What can you feel? Cold. Aizawa shifted as if to look Deku in the eyes. His expression shifted, like he found something he wanted to see. What can you see? Deku hummed. Sensei? All Might? Okay, can you describe All Might to me? Bright yellow, red, and blue jacket? Deku seemed to shift, and Katsuki leaned back a bit. He saw Deku's eyes slowly blink and focus, returning to himself. All Might walked towards, giving Deku a small wave, who gave a small, tired smile in return. Midoriya, my boy, All Might was saying with a watery smile on his face. Can I touch you? At Deku's slow nod, he placed his large hand on his arm. Sorry to have forced you so hard, my boy, but it's over. You've been so strong. It's over? Deku echoed slowly, disbelieving. It's over. We got everything we needed, Aizawa said. Okay, he whispered. All Might squeezed his hand. What do you need from us right now, my boy? His voice was full of tenderness. I want to rest, he replied, but not alone. Yudaraka, who's been quiet this whole time, calls out softly. Sensei, can we sleep over with Deku? Would that help? Aizawa considered it. Midoriya, do you want your friends to sleep with you? Would that help? He nodded, curling into Katsuki. Katsuki instinctively patted him in a gentle rhythm. He still felt lost, but he could do this at least. The teachers nodded as they turned to thank Tsukachi, who nodded and left, after telling them he would provide them with updates as fast as possible. Aizawa then gestured for them to stand. Katsuki turned to Deku. Nerd, we have to stand up. Deku nodded. His face scrunched as he rubbed tiredly, reluctantly parting from Katsuki. Katsuki considered not sleeping in with the rest. It almost felt like everything he was doing was out of his comfort zone. But one look at Deku who looked absolutely miserable despite the reassurance, drove his decision to stay. "Do you want me to carry you?" Katsuki asked, as he watched Deku sluggishly reach for his fallen crutches. "It's okay, Kachan," he replied, flash of another exhausted smile. "I'm feeling better." Regardless, he reached out with a steady hand as Deku stood up. All Might stuck to the other side, a hand on his other arm. Aizawa then told them to follow him as he led them to a bigger room into the teachers' dorms. The rest of the guys helped Aizawa take out the mattresses and lay them on the ground. "You guys can sleep here tonight. Yudaraka, you're the only girl, but I'll trust you guys this one time." Yudaraka nodded, complete honesty in her eyes. "Thank you so much for letting us do this, Sensei." They watched Aizawa left. All Might was giving Deku a quick hug before bidding them goodnight. Katsuki held out his arm. "Come on, nerd." He huffed defensively when Todoroki gently hovered on the other side. "I don't need your help to help Deku, fucking half and half," Katsuki grumbled as they lowered Deku onto the bed. "Do I look like I care?" Todoroki griped back, looking tense. Katsuki figured he was mad at him. Understandably. He was pissed at himself, too. Yudaraka and Kirishima came back, a bunch of pillows in their hands. "Dude, Sensei should have told us about this room earlier. We could have totally had a big sleepover at the end of the year or something," Kirishima said, depositing the pillows around Deku, who blinked in confusion. "Ah, Kirishima, I don't think we need so many pillows," Deku hesitantly piped up. "More pillows the better. You can never have enough pillows, Deku," Yudaraka said cheerfully, placing more pillows down. "You're gonna smother the nerd, round face," Katsuki said, sitting down at an optimal distance from the group, but closest to Deku. He glared at Kirishima when a pillow hit him square in the head. "What the fuck?" Kirishima smiled innocently. "You didn't have pillows. You sat down so quickly, Bakugo. The least you could have done is help." Ida distracted from Katsuki's own attack when he gasped loudly, returning with a bunch of pillows in his hands. "That's too many pillows, Yudaraka." "Thanks, guys," Deku says. "And sorry. I know that was kind of intense." Deku didn't look at them when he spoke, opting for squeezing the pillow in his hands instead. Ida moved closer as he placed a hand on the pillow Deku was squishing. "Midoriya, I wanted to let you know that was very brave, and while it may have been intense, I really admire you pulling through and everything, despite it all." Yudaraka had squeezed onto the mattress, her own hand joining the pillow. "We're really thankful you're back, Deku." Todoroki knelt down in front of Deku, asking, "Midoriya, can I give you a hug?" Deku blinked up at Todoroki as he nodded. Katsuki watched as Todoroki placed a hand around Deku, hugging him tightly. "Thanks, Todoroki," Deku said, flushing. Katsuki watched as Deku flushed harder when Todoroki whispered something into his ear. "Oi, half and half, don't stay so close to Deku," he immediately snapped. "What if the nerd gets scared again?" Todoroki backed off, sending the most infuriating smug look towards Deku, who placed both his fists on his cheeks. He looked absolutely stupid, but Katsuki felt his face scrunch up at the confusing mess of emotions he felt at seeing the action. "Fucking Deku, making me feel feelings. I want to punch him in his goddamn face. Stupid emotions." "You're important to us, Midoriya, especially to Bakugo," Todoroki had whispered into his ear, making Izuku flush hard. "Oh my god, Todoroki, you don't just say things like that," Izuku thought, heart fluttering. He understood what Todoroki was trying to do, trying to distract him from his incident by talking about Kachan. He didn't know why his heart was fluttering like this, though. "Oi, half and half. Don't stay so close to Deku," Kachan snapped. "What if the nerd gets scared again?" Kachan is so attentive, Izuku couldn't help but think. He poked his cheeks with his fist, willing it to stop flushing. Yudaraka glanced knowingly at Kachan, who appeared to have stopped functioning, his face going through what looks like muscle spasms. "Stop teasing him, Todoroki," she said, but she could not help but smile smugly too. Izuku flopped back onto the soft pillows. "Stop," he whined. From his vantage point, he saw Kirishima nudging Kachan in the ribs, smiling. Kachan glared at him in return. Muscle spasms seemingly over, Kachan had laid back onto the bed, glaring at the ceiling. Everyone seemed to settle in their own spots, the dim light of the room providing enough vision for everyone to see and cuddle around him. Izuku, tired from all the flashbacks, snuggled into the pillows, eyes slipping closed. He felt Todoroki place a hand on his arm, the coolness grounding him as he quickly drifted off. "Is he asleep?" Katsuki heard Yudaraka say softly after a long while. Todoroki hummed in affirmation, his hand frozen on Deku's arm, as if he was afraid to remove it without waking him. Katsuki watched Deku's face carefully, since the nerd had decided to face him. He saw the slack look on his face and knew that the nerd had fallen back into deep sleep. Yudaraka, whose mattress was placed such that her head was not facing the top of Deku's head, turned onto her stomach and leaned on her elbows, giving him a soft but pained look. "I didn't want to say that while he was awake," Yudaraka admitted quietly, "but listening to him was really hard." "I agree," Todoroki said, just as soft. Ida, who had been quiet that everyone thought was asleep, said, "Midoriya sounded like my brother when he was talking about his incident, but so much more in pain." Kirishima piped up slowly beside Katsuki. "I know I'm not close to Midoriya as everyone else is here, but," he hesitated, "I just wish I could have done more, like help find him faster or..." He paused, not knowing how to continue. "I understand what you mean," Todoroki replied. "I feel like we should have done more for him. He was so terrified today. Yudaraka shifted back in her seat, the pain looked shifting into something more delicate, more determined. "I couldn't do anything but listen today. I wanted to help him." Kirishima shifted beside him, Katsuki glancing at him to find him sitting up. "I mean, I think the best thing we can do is just be there for him now, isn't it? And just make things as normal as possible." "Deku didn't deserve any of this," Yudaraka whispered angrily, reaching over to ghost her hand above Deku's hair. "I don't think anyone deserves to be tortured by a psychotic stalker who's obsessed with seeing your pain," Todoroki said bluntly. "Zip your shithole half and half. If Deku hears this and panics, I'm gonna punch you in the face," Katsuki said flatly, his impulse to protect him winning over his pride of keeping his concern hidden. He searched Deku's face for any signs of stirring, breathing out slowly when he stayed asleep. There was a pause. Then Todoroki continued, his voice with an undertone of challenge. "Why do you care so much then, Bakugo? Before this, you and Midoriya were barely beginning to rebuild your friendship, as not to mention that half of his panic was your fault too." Katsuki twitched, his fist twitching on the mattress, ready to get up and punch the fucker, when Kirishima placed a hand on his arm. "Bakugo, you know it's a valid question." Whatever. He did not want to talk about his feelings to a bunch of extras he didn't care about. He didn't want to show his weakness, his newfound urge that he wanted to care about Deku. He didn't want them to know. He knew better than anyone that he fucked up. He hoped that Deku didn't blame him, if he even knew what Katsuki had done. "Bakugo cares more than you think, Todoroki, and you know that he didn't mean for any of that to happen," Kirishima answered for him, his hand squeezing soothingly once more before sliding away. "We don't need this right now. It wasn't Bakugo's fault, and he just wanted to help. Remember the actions we did back in Camino? Remember the actions we did back in Kamino too? I don't need you speaking for me, shitty hair, Katsuki said, despite his thankful pang in his heart. I want Deku to recover so I can beat his shitty ass again, he growled. Bakugo did help Deku a lot, Yudaraka said. Besides, Deku trusts him so much that he depends on him when he feels overwhelmed. I know, Todoroki said, the undertone of challenge changing to knowing. Doesn't stop me from asking. Katsuki could swear the fucker was smiling. He considered actually punching him, but then Deku shifted. A soft "Kachan" escaped his mouth as he reached a hand out. Oops, Yudaraka said, thinking she woke him up, but Katsuki saw how Deku's eyes were still shut. He watched how Deku's hand continued to pat the mattress, his slack face slowly twisting into a frown when he couldn't feel the warmth. Unthinkingly, Katsuki found himself reaching out, his hand sliding forward, gently intertwining with Deku's fingers. Deku's face smoothed out, turning to content as he sighed, stilling. Bakugo, you're so soft for Deku, Yudaraka giggled, having seen the entire exchange as she had her eyes trained on Deku. Shut the fuck up, round face, Katsuki snapped, but there was no heat in his words. His fingers twitched as he thought about ripping his hand back, but Deku clutched harder, and he stopped. It's just because I want the nerd to recover faster so I can beat his ass, he emphasized. Whatever you say, Yudaraka said, turning back onto her back. He heard Kirishima laugh softly beside him. Katsuki stubbornly closed his eyes and slept. When Izuku woke in the morning, everyone was already awake and preparing for class. He barely rubbed his eyes. Did I oversleep? Watching everyone move around him, Izuku felt the beginnings of insecurity dredge up within him. He felt almost awkward. How was he supposed to act after all that last night? How were his own friends going to act around him? Izuku appreciated the sense of normality last night, though, but he didn't even have a proper talk with his friends. He was just too tired, and right now, he wasn't sure what to do. Izuku felt out of his depth. As if on instinct, his eyes searched out for Kachan, not knowing if said student had left after he had fallen asleep. To Izuku's pleasant surprise, he saw him throwing a bunch of pillows in the corner, shouting something at Yudaraka, who was gesturing wildly. A hand appeared in his vision, bringing him out of his thoughts. He looked to see Todoroki. Need a hand? Everyone's already beginning to walk to class. We should too. He thanked him gratefully, grabbing his hand and standing up, the other hand landing on Todoroki's arm as he stumbled. Todoroki handed him his crutches. Thanks. He didn't seem to be able to look Todoroki in the eyes, choosing to awkwardly fidget with his crutches instead. Midoriya. He jumped. Are you feeling better today? He looked at Todoroki, who was giving him a mere small smile. If you feel better and you just don't want to think about it, don't worry about it. We'll be here for you either way. Not think about it? Todoroki made sense. He did feel better after all. It was hard to say anything at all, but he needed to not ponder on things that had happened to him. And honestly, Izuku did feel pretty good right now. He could still function, and he has his friends at his side. He could put everything behind him, which was sounding like a better idea the more awake he felt. I just can't wait for a recovery girl to remove these casts, so I can stop using these things. He shifted the crutches to prove his point. Are you going to visit her and ask her about it today, after class? Todoroki asked, head tilted slightly, as they walked to the bathroom to prepare for class. Yeah, Izuku smiled a little. I just have to recover, then I'll get back to normal, which means getting off of this as fast as possible. Izuku felt almost lost as he walked into the classroom. It was weird being back in class after everything that happened. Although barely more than a week of his life was lost to the incident, he noticed how behind he was. On top of that, he had to skip out on hero class, which probably was the hardest thing that Izuku had to agree to. He sat down after greeting Aizawa. It felt almost laughingly normal. Now that he went back to taking out his notebooks in preparation for the next class. Classes passed in a frustrating haze. Izuku found himself struggling to recall what he had last learned. He had tried to revise a little, but when he was hospitalized, he had convinced Ida and everything, but even that, he found himself frustrated as he struggled to catch up. When lunchtime came, he closed his notebook harshly and scrubbed at his forehead. He jumped when a notebook was thrown down on the table, and he met eyes with Kacchan, who stared at him for a while before storming off. Izuku opened the notebook and saw notes that Kacchan took in class, including the ones during the period he was gone. Kacchan must have wanted me to refer to his notes if I didn't get to it, he thought happily, his hands running over the pages, happily giving way to disbelief at how concise Kacchan's notes were. He tucked away the notebooks gently into his bag, as if it was more important than treasure. Kacchan's really was amazing. "It's time for lunch, Midoriya," Ida said, walking up to him. Izuku nodded, packing the rest of his things into his bag. Yudaraka and Todoroki lingered at the door, waiting for him. He accepted Ida's help as he got up. When he reached, he looked around nervously at the throng of people in the canteen, hands clutched tight around his crutches. Todoroki, sensing his discomfort, pressed closer to him. "We can just order for you later, Deku." Yudaraka's bubbly voice made him smile as he sat down at Class 1A's usual table. Ida nodded as he sat. "Do you want katsunan?" Izuku hesitated, but his stomach growled in response. "Okay, it sounds like my stomach agrees anyway." When his friends came back, they ate, and Izuku felt his appetite increase at the burst of taste in his mouth. "Deku," Yudaraka said around a mouthful of food, "are you feeling okay? Able to adjust back to class well?" Izuku knew she meant well, but he felt a flash of frustration at being reminded his predicament as he stabbed the rice with more vigor than usual. "It's okay," he muttered. He then felt bad at his attitude, and he elaborated. "I just feel behind." "It's normal, Midoriya," Ida said, his voice firm. "You'll catch up very soon. After your knee's completely healed, you'll be able to join the hero practice too. Everything will fall back in place soon." Izuku hummed. "It really hasn't been bad. I just couldn't catch up with Mike Sensei's lesson." "I can share you my notes with you if you want, Midoriya," Todoroki said, blinking as he slurped on his soba. Izuku blushed. "It's okay. Kacchan already." Yudaraka's face turned devilish. "Ooh, Bakugo? Why are you blushing so hard, Deku?" "Ah!" Izuku squeaked as he placed a piece of meat on his chopsticks, avoiding eye contact as he chewed. "It's okay to tell us about your crush on Bakugo, you know?" Todoroki deadpanned as he sucked on his soba louder. Izuku choked. "Todoroki, that's in poor timing," Ida yelled. "I'm either going to die by choking," Izuku thought, coughing harshly at every slap that landed on his back, "or by Ida slapping my back too hard." He waved his hands wildly as he swallowed the meat properly. "What crush?" he protested, sneaking a glance at Kacchan. He coughed again, grabbing water, realizing that Kacchan was looking at him weirdly, concern etched in his face. He gulped down the water frantically, looking away from Kacchan, eyes blown wide. "Crush? What crush? There's no crush." "You know, the crush on the one walking over to us right now," Todoroki said, unfazed. "What's got Deku's pants in a twist?" "Don't turn around." He turned around. Kacchan stared at him, eyebrows raised. "Nothing, Kacchan." His voice sounded way too high-pitched to be normal. Curse you, voice. Kachan frowned as he glanced at the food that he was eating. Is it the food? Too oily? Fucking nerd. Why did you choose oily food? He turned to the rest. Why the fuck did you guys buy him oily food? Todoroki opened his mouth. Izuku screeched. Kachan's eyes snapped back towards him, this time completely bewildered. No, it's not the food, Kachan. I just choked, that's all. Okay, bunch of weirdos. Kachan grumbled, storming off to his group, as Ashido appeared to be wiggling her eyebrows. What even? After Kachan walked away, Izuku turned to look at Todoroki. His voice hushed. I do not have a crush on Kachan, Todoroki. He looked at the other friends for support, only to find them looking at him, faces expressionless. What? You guys don't believe me? I don't know, man, Todoroki said at first, but it's something I've been thinking about for the longest time now, Uraraka said, a smug smile appearing. You blush a lot when Bakugo does something nice, and you trust him a lot. Her eyebrows wiggled too. Todoroki nodded beside her, as his face screamed, See, I'm right, or as much as face can show, without too elaborative of an expression. Also, you guys have, like, this, her hands raised, index fingers waving around each other. This orbit around each other. What? Undetermined by the blank look, Uraraka pressed on. Okay, listen to me. She leaned forward, tapping a finger on the table. Izuku couldn't help but think she looked like a lawyer presenting her case. I'm willing to bet my lunch money that you probably think this way. You think Bakugo is amazing. You admire him. You think that out of everyone, you probably would choose to spend your time with Bakugo the most. Her fingers tapped with every point that she made. You get very flustered every time he does something for you. It's love, Deku. Love! She ended off with a flurry of tapping. Izuku wanted to protest, but he felt silent, thinking. He remembered how he kept wanting Kachan when he was in his room. The time in the hospital bed, watching Kachan's face in the starlight, remembering the feeling that whelmed up in him, of being able to forget what that man did to him. He was so grateful that Kachan was willing to be there for him. He remembered stroking Kachan's hand, of Kachan's face of concern when he asked about his problem, his voice so tender and hesitant, as if he was afraid to hurting Izuku. He remembered feeling so much wanting, longing, of wanting the moment to last forever. Oh. Izuku blushed again. He hid his face in his hands. Midoriya? Ida sounded concerned by his side. I think you teased him too much, Uraraka. Todoroki. Uraraka's voice sounded smug as ever as she confidently said, No, I think we, absolute geniuses, managed to show him something instead. Absolute geniuses? Todoroki deadpanned, voice echoed. Yay, I did it. Oh, thank God. Yay. Now my voice is garbage now. I need some water. So bad. But I got this over with. Now I will start with the next one. Yay. Okay. If you want to see more of this and more of my series, and I have many more to come, of small series, big series, anything in between, you know what to do. AKA subscribe and like and comment. Bye.